Hello, welcome to Concordia On-Air. My name is Allegra.
And I'm Ingrid.
And today on the show we have...
In news, the first ever zero-gravity oven.
In sports, the upset of the century? I think so.
And on A&E,
CEC events.
All that and more on Concordia On-Air.
So Ingrid, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Allegra?
I'm doing okay. You might have realized that I wasn't here last week.
Where were you?
I was on orchestra tour. I play violin with the Concordia Orchestra, and we went all around Minnesota. Very exciting, never been there before. We toured all sorts of cool towns, Bemidji, Grand Rapids, Duluth, Stillwater down in the cities, and then Alexandria. And we finished up in Moorhead on Sunday.
Very cool. What was your favorite city that you went to?
I think it has to be Duluth. I love Lake Superior. It's very vast, very, cold.
Very cold.
Very cold. It was a really nice time there. We actually had a free morning, so we stayed with someone in the orchestra's family. A group of 4 of us did. And then in the morning, her mom took us out for coffee, and we walked along the pier near the lighthouse at the lake. It was just, it was lovely.
Cool.
It was a nice break from all the, music-heavy activities of the tour. Mm-hmm. How was your week?
It was good. It was just a normal week. Wasn't going to anywhere exciting.
Right.
Wish I could have been in Duluth. That's my favorite place too.
I was bummed that I missed the spooky episode last week.
Oh yeah.
It looked like a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
However, I'm back now and living, laughing, loving. So
that's good.
That's good.
Yeah. Anything fun coming up in any of your classes?
Oh, I have to think about that one. See, I'm a week behind right now.
Oh.
Missing 5 days of school. Would not recommend.
How is catching up going?
It's been okay. I have some really nice professors who are pretty understanding, and I'm, working myself down there so I can be ready for whatever's coming next. I'm a little spacey right now. It's been a little bit of a tired week. Nothing fun, just a lot of work. But I guess I like work, otherwise I wouldn't be here doing it, so...
It is that part of the semester where it seems like all the classes are everything's just piling up. It was going so easy until then, until now, and now it's...
You're so right. And at the same time, the semester is almost over. This is one of the biggest final pushes. We only have 3 weeks and then Thanksgiving and then maybe 2 or 3 more after that. I don't know off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. Do you have any cool plans for Thanksgiving?
Probably just going home.
Well, that's a great place to go.
Yes, it is.
Let's go over to news.
Hello, I'm Elise.
And I'm Andrew.
Next Monday, Concordia will be hosting a blood drive on campus to encourage students and faculty to give back to their community. According to WebMD, about 5 million Americans need a blood transfusion each year. That's over 13,000 transfusions per day. On Monday, donors will be able to help out by giving whole blood donations through Vitalent, the second largest blood service provider in the U.S. This is just one of many blood drives held on campus every year that are put on by various campus organizations. This drive, put on by the Campus Events Commission, will be held in the Jones AB from 10:30 a.m. to 1:45 p.m. on Monday. To sign up, visit the CEC table in the atrium anytime this week.
The Plains Art Museum in Fargo will continue displaying work from Concordia art students until November 30th. Students in intermediate studio art have had the opportunity to present their work on printmaking in the museum's XL Energy Gallery as part of an annual print exchange. This year's theme is Interpretation of Dreams, inviting students from different colleges around the region to share their ideas. A number of institutions regularly participate in this display, including North Dakota State University, Minnesota State University in Moorhead, University of Manitoba, along with a number of others. The display's been up since October 7th, and students are encouraged to go see it.
Last week, a pipeline leak spilled over 383,000 gallons of oil in northeastern North Dakota. The oil spill from the Keystone Pipeline into a wetland in Walsh County. While the cause of the spill is still unknown, there is no indication that it will have any effect on drinking water in the area. The pipeline is currently shut off while crews work to clean up the spill and repair the line. Meanwhile, tribal protests have escalated in response to the spill. The recent disaster has amplified fears for both the safety of humans and the environment. On November 13th, a hearing will be held to assess the plans to double the carrying capacity of the Dakota Access Pipeline. Standing Rock Tribal Chairman Mike Faith hopes that the message of natives will be supported during the hearing.
Hundreds of people gathered for a youth cultural healing summit this weekend held at a church in downtown Minneapolis. The event was hosted by Catalyst Initiative, which is a nonprofit based in the Twin Cities. By using theater and group discussions to unpack trauma, youth from the area aimed to challenge the stigmas behind mental health and work towards creating safer environments for each other. A representative from Catalyst Initiative stated that they receive between 50 to 60 calls each week requesting similar summits, showing that many people around the nation want to have a similar creative experience. There will likely be more of these held as the organization gains more attention.
This Saturday, NASA revolutionized the way astronauts cook by sending the first ever space oven to the International Space Station. The appliance, formerly known as the Zero-G oven, provides the possibility of baking meals in a zero-gravity environment. This would be a huge upgrade from the current meal situation in space, which requires astronauts to eat food that is freeze-dried. Many types of food cannot be eaten in their natural state, while others require the addition of water. In contrast, the space oven will be able to heat food using electric heating elements similar to those in toaster ovens, allowing food to be baked at zero gravity. Scientists hope to use this new technology to compare baking in a microgravity environment and baking in Earth's gravity.
Ongoing protests in Chile have expanded throughout the country during this last month. The protests are being held in response to rising public transport fees, official corruption, and income inequality as one of the numerous civil rights violations by the government. The president announced a state of emergency after rioters disabled the capital's public transport system. The protesters want the president to resign, along with a new constitution, including several new reforms. In the midst of this clash, 21 people have been killed and nearly 2,500 injured. The government's response has attracted concern from NGOs such as Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, who cite excessive use of force. Additionally, there have been reports of disproportionate violence from law enforcement by local news outlets in the area. While several reforms have been in place, the rioting continues. Now, on to an interview with Isabel from Love Your Melon.
By Isabel Frederick, who is involved in Love Your Melon. So thank you for joining us, Isabel. So first, can you tell us a little bit about what Love Your Melon is?
Yeah, so Love Your Melon is a club that is found on Concordia's campus, along with campuses all throughout the United States. And the club focuses on volunteering throughout the community, and as well as specifically focusing on planning events coordinated with hospitals in order to help children with pediatric cancer.
Awesome. So what has Love Your Melon been up to this year?
Yeah, so one of the main things that we've done on campus is that we have tabled and hosted a swab drive for DKMS, which is for the National Bone Marrow Registry, and so it's we're trying to get more people onto the Bone Marrow Registry for that, as well as a lot of volunteering events in the community, and also we've made cards for children with cancer.
Very cool. So what has been your favorite part about being involved with Love Your Melon?
My favorite part about being in Love Your Melon is last year we planned a day for a young boy who has cancer, and we went to NDSU with him, and he got to meet the football team, and it was just, so that was my favorite part, was going and planning that day for him and getting to see how excited he was.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. What was that experience like?
It was super cool to see all of the support from his family and his siblings, and how excited and upbeat he was, and just the impact that we were able to make on his life and just see how excited he was because they got to meet some of the football players from NDSU and tour their locker room and everything. And so it was super cool to see just how something like that was able to just make his day so much better.
That is very cool. So what kind of events can we expect to see or hear about Love Your Melon doing as the year goes on?
Yeah, so we actually have a lot more events in this month, November. On the 19th, we are planning to host an event from just like 8:30 to 9 p.m. And our goal is to get 100 people to make cards for children with cancer. Through like the Love Your Melon organization, we get informed about some certain children who would like to receive cards. And we just recently heard about a 3-year-old girl who has cancer. And so we're trying to make an event like that. To just make cards and send out to people, just try to brighten their day a little bit. And then on the 22nd of November, we are going to table on campus for another DKMS swab drive for the bone marrow registry. And then we're planning on volunteering in the community. Examples are we go to Churches United or Dorothy Day Food Pantry. And we were also planning on going and doing the bell ringing. And stuff like that. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So how could a student interested in getting involved in Love Your Melon be able to do that?
Yeah. So Love Your Melon, the organization, only allows 20 people to be on every club in the United States. And so there's currently 20 members in the club. But for the following year, if somebody would want to join the club with graduating seniors leaving, they can email the head of the club, Christian Shell, and also talk to any members who are involved, and they could kind of direct you to the right spot. And also during like the club expos on campus, we usually table there, and so then they can talk to us about that too.
I see. Well, awesome. Now over to sports.
Aloha, sports fans. I'm Grant.
And I'm Dom.
The talk of campus for the past few days seems to be the football team's improbable upset this past Saturday over number 4 nationally ranked St. John's. This would be Concordia's 3rd game versus a nationally ranked opponent this season, having lost to both St. Thomas and Bethel earlier this season. The Cobbers entered the game just 2-5 this season, while the Johnnies had yet to lose a game. St. John's outgained Concordia 581 yards to 249 yards over the course of the game, and the Cobbers only completed 3 passes all game. But Terry Horan's squad proved that doing the little things right makes a big difference. The Cobbers blocked all 3 of St. John's extra point attempts, including one they took all the way back to the end zone for 2 points of their own. Concordia also forced 5 turnovers, including 4 interceptions off a quarterback who had only thrown 3 picks all season. And the weirdness of the game didn't stop there. It went right down to the wire. Facing a 4th and 9 in overtime and trailing by 6 points, Blake Cragness completed his 3rd pass of the game to Matt By in the end zone over a Johnny defender to give the Cobbers their first ever win against a top 10 opponent. This victory puts Concordia at 3-3 in the MIAC this year and 3-5 overall. Their next game will be at home against St. Olaf this Saturday at 1 p.m. But first, let's see what ESPN had to say about the team's impressive win.
Minnesota's been one of the great stories in...
Oh, there's no sound.
It's just Brennan going, oh. Yeah, it is. Pause. Yeah, we might buzz right to go. Oh.
Did it not load?
Okay.
That win didn't only land a Concordia a spot on ESPN, but it gave all 3 MIAC Player of the Week honors to Cobbers as well. This is the first time that one school has earned all 3 Player of the Week awards in 1 week since Carleton managed to do so in 2008. Matt By received Offensive Player of the Week honors. Bai accounted for all 3 of the Cobbers' catches all game, none bigger than his catch over a Johnny defender in overtime, which allowed Concordia to win the game on the ensuing extra point. Sam Michel was named MIAC Defensive Player of the Week after a game-high 13 tackles against St. John's, as well as a crucial interception on 4th and goal when the game was tied at 12. Willie Julks III earned his 2nd Special Teams Player of the Week honors this season with a pair of blocked extra points against St. John's, none bigger than his PAT block in overtime. Julks now has 5 blocked kicks this season, which leads the nation and is also a school record. Not only was Julks a MIAC Player of the Week, but he was also named the National Division III Special Teams Player of the Week for last game's performance. Let's hope they can keep up the good work next Saturday.
Concordia's men's soccer team won their season finale in dramatic fashion against St. Olaf in double overtime by a score of 1-0 last Saturday. Nate Weaver scored the game-winning goal in the 110th minute to seal the game. His goal last Saturday marks Weaver's 10th of the season, joining teammate Sam Guess as the only 2 Cobbers with double-digit goals on the year. Freshman goalkeeper Noah Sarr's performance can't be overlooked as well. He recorded 8 saves over the course of the game and secured his 3rd shutout of the season. This victory gives Concordia a 9-7-2 record to finish the year and their first winning season since 2010. Sadly, the Cobbers' 3-7 conference record will not be enough to grant them a playoff berth, but the future looks bright for the team, and hopefully they can reach the postseason next year. And let's see if ESPN has anything to say now.
Minnesota's been one of the great stories in football. They didn't play today. The state of Minnesota delivered in a big way. Concordia College, located in Moorhead, Minnesota, was 2-5 entering play against the number 4 team in D3 St. John's. The Cobbers blocked 2 extra points in regulation, returned one of them for a 2-point conversion, forced overtime, blocked a 3rd PAT, then scored on a Blake Craigness to Matt Bai touchdown pass, converted their own PAT. They stunned St. John's 19-18. First ever win over a top 5 team for Terry Horan and the Concordia Cobbers. By the way, that touchdown pass, the 3rd completion all day for Concordia. They completed only 3 passes today, and they win the game.
Love college football.
Students aren't the only ones settling into new homes on campus this fall. Concordia College has new native habitats, or bee hotels, at 3 separate locations on campus. The hotels followed a recent establishment of pollinator gardens in front of the Science Center. Ellie DeVos, a senior environmental studies major, is the leader of this recent initiative.
Dr. Bishop on campus has been my advisor since freshman year, and he had this idea for a couple years where he wanted to kind of promote insect pollinator habitat and nesting sites on campus.
She came by and said she would like to do something with pollinators, and we discussed a little bit, and I don't remember if she or I first one who mentioned nesting habitat, but I know she really thought that was a good idea.
Ellie's idea can be found in bloom on the far edge of campus within the High Tunnel Garden. There lies a bee's nest that you might not have even noticed when walking by.
So this is the ground nest behind us, and there's a perimeter of limestone blocks which were provided by facilities, and we really wanted to kind of be creative with this and use things that we already had.
The right types of plants, you need to have at least 3 different types of plants blooming at all time because the plants are seasonal and the bees are seasonal.
Ellie enjoys seeing her project finally in bloom after starting it in her capstone class last fall. Seeing evidence of the bees making a home in her project, Ellie gets excited for the concept of what's next.
So eventually we're looking towards establishing Concordia as a bee campus through the Xerces Society Bee Campus USA. And there's approximately 7 steps to becoming a bee campus. So one of them is to have pollinator-focused projects and have them be student-led.
For initiatives like this to happen, it's great when the students bring it up and they're the power behind it, because I think the administration will listen more to students than they do sometimes to faculty.
Dr. Bishop and Ellie couldn't have predicted such immediate success.
I think it turned out really good. This summer it was gorgeous with all the various plants blooming, and it was literally abuzz with activity.
From Dominic and Elaine, Concordia On-Air.
From the A&E, I'm Gabe.
And I'm Parker.
Speaking just yesterday on campus was Patrick Holbert, a New York City actor and comedian. In his act, Punchline Drunk, Holbert spoke about his past addiction and current sobriety, weaving in no small amount of humor to the story. The subject of his talk is no doubt an important topic among college students and young adults today. If you missed Punchline Drunk and are looking for something else fun to do this week, CEC is going to Sky Zone on Friday, November 8th. If you're interested in going along, the group will be meeting in the atrium at 7:30 before departure. So, Parker, did you see Punchline Drunk at all?
No, I didn't have the chance to go, but I heard that it was like hilarious and it talked about a lot of really touchy subject in a really humorous way, which I find incredibly important and one of the best way to probably speak about something like addiction.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's better that it was kind of put in that way, especially coming from somebody who's dealt with it, you know. A lot of the time, sometimes in high school, maybe it would feel like speakers were brought in who maybe couldn't even relate well to the audience, and so I think it was really nice too that that Patrick Holbert has been through that sort of thing and is able to speak on it. You know, he knows all about it, and he's very credible on it. Do you think that this blending of comedy and sort of educational speaking is like a good approach to this sort of thing? Maybe makes it easier?
Yes, I completely agree with that. I think sometimes talking about something like a difficult topic around addiction, it's really good to talk about it through a humorous way. So this is a little fun unknown secret about me that a lot of people don't know. I'm an addiction counselor at an addiction facility in Fargo, and I work there a couple times a week working with the patients. And a lot of the patients, they approach their disease in a very sarcastic way where they will make small jokes about their drug use in the past and different things like that, and it makes what has happened to them a lot more bearable. You know, instead of straight up saying like, "Oh, this happened to me," it's easier to like kind of say it in a smaller, sarcastic way. And I really enjoy that because they can admit that they are an addict, but they can say it in a way that's not as harmful to them and doesn't hurt, you know, their self-esteem as much.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, well, yeah, we can continue on to my next story. Delta Airlines has been accused of taking out LGBT love scenes from movies like Rocketman and Booksmart. The airline explained that their movies are edited by a third-party company. Delta also stated that they will be re-implementing the unedited versions of the movies to their flights as soon as possible, for the movies didn't break any of their guidelines, including LGBT relationships. Delta, for the last few years, has sponsored multiple pride parties across the United States and has been awarded the Best Workforce Diversity Award by Fortune magazine for the last 3 years. So, Gabe, obviously Delta got in quite a bit of trouble for this because it was purposely targeting, you know, just LGBT content. I think the story would be quite differently if it was targeting all content in you know, more of a conservative matter, but since it was focusing solely on LGBT content, obviously a lot of accusations were raised against Delta and this third-party company. In your own opinion, do you think Delta could have prevented this story?
Well, I think Delta in some cases might be getting more blame than they deserve if it is the third-party company overall who is editing all these things out. But the anger is probably pretty warranted among the community just for this happening in general. But I think maybe in the future Delta should monitor that sort of thing more, what's getting changed in their movies if certain things are getting edited out. But yeah.
No, I 100% agree. I think it just feeds into the whole narrative that, you know, companies, they rely on these third-party companies so much for, you know, doing smaller, different tasks for them, but then there's no regulation for what they're doing and different things like that. I definitely, you know, it's hard not to put blame on Delta in some ways just because of being such a large airline. You would think that they would have better regulation in place where a story like where a situation like this wouldn't happen, but obviously that's not the case in this. So it'll be interesting in the next coming weeks to see how Delta can kind of come back from this. All right. Well, that was all for A&E today. Now on to a movie story, or movie review with Grant and Dom.
Long time no see, film fans. I'm Dom.
And I'm Grant.
And today we are reviewing the new movie, The Lighthouse. You want to give a rundown of the movie?
Well, rundown of The Lighthouse, from what I gathered, it's a wild ride to say the least, but it features two guys played by Willem Dafoe and everyone's favorite vampire,
Robert Pattinson.
Of course, not as sparkly this time because the film is in black and white, which may turn some people off. But if you're a true diehard film fan, you're just going to be more excited for it because black and white movies, they provide so much excitement for lighting, and the aspect ratio is different as well.
Right, it's in a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is how kind of old-timey movies are made. So giving the movie even more of an uncomfortable look. The movie is probably most widely classified as a horror movie, but it's not your typical horror movie, and I think that's to say the very least. It's an uncomfortable watch, I would say.
It is fairly uncomfortable, but it's also very funny at times.
It's very funny. Probably not funny enough to be a comedy, but it's got something for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's.
I told them, so I think
I think we're gonna take a look at the trailer here.
Yeah, let's watch the trailer. Got it. Sorry, I thought you guys knew.
That's okay.
Tell me, what's a timberman want with being a wiki?
Just looking to earn a living, just like any man. Starting new.
On the run.
Grant and I, we saw this movie last night at the Fargo Theater with one of our friends, and it just, I felt so cold when I was watching it. It's kind of...
Not just because of the weather.
That's right, yeah. It's set in the late 19th century, I'd say. Why don't you talk about the filmmaker a little bit more?
Well, Robert Eggers, he directed my favorite movie I watched just last week. My favorite movie that I watched this year, The Witch, but it's spelled the VV-itch. So just like the Old English spelling, because that's the way they talk. I love it. It really takes me back to a time when, people believed in witches and burned them at the stake. He's amazing. The feel of both of his movies that I've seen, it's like a horror. It's not really horror. It just makes you uneasy the whole time. Like there's impending doom, and I think that's what a good horror movie should do. Like The Shining. The Shining isn't full of jump scares or anything. It just gives you a sense of dread. And I think comparing any horror movie to The Shining is the highest praise I can give it.
That's for sure. We've got a lot of students on campus that maybe they're not looking for a little bit more stress, but hey, if you're up for it, I'd absolutely say that this movie is kicking off award season movies. I think that we might see maybe a best cinematography, best actor, supporting actor for Pattinson and Dafoe. Dafoe had been nominated thrice now for best supporting actor, and then last year for best actor, and maybe he can nab this one this time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's longer overdue.
I mean, it seems like it's the year of the horror movie, and honestly, if I were deciding like the best picture noms, I would definitely put this right up there with Midsommar as two horror movies that probably deserve a look to be in the consideration for best picture. Two movies that aren't traditionally scary jump scare wise, as some people might think, but they both give me the sense of dread, just an uneasy feeling watching them that some people might not like, but if you really like movies, then I think this is going to be a movie you're going to want to see.
Absolutely. I think just the set design of the whole thing, the claustrophobia, because the movie takes place on an island with just a couple of buildings and then obviously the titular lighthouse. And the movie is rated R, by the way. There are some graphic elements, but definitely not stomach churning. I think maybe that's all we have for tonight. So from Grant and Dom, this has been Concordia On Air.